I mean, it's kind of nice because you can squeeze it. It comes up, so you can kind of hold it upright.
But is it any better than a honey bear?
It's a glue ball. But I want to be just like everybody else. They've got cool glue bottles. I want a cool glue bottle. Good morning, welcome back here to the shop where we have a lot going on and we've got a lot to get done this week. Also, I'm going to introduce you to Ken, who drove up from Washington, D.C. last week. He hung out with me all week. He signed up to take my 5-day course. He was interested in learning how to build a small rocking horse on bow rockers. So we went over that, and then he was really interested in how to build the bow rockers for his horse. So we did that too. We'll check in with him here in a little while. But first, we've got a large horse in the paint booth. That's where we're going to start this morning. I showed you last episode that I was able to get the base coat on that. Well, over the weekend, I went ahead, I got it all painted, so it's all ready to go. We're going to go in and we're going to pull the tape. We're going to see just what this looks like, because remember, this is going to be a paint horse. So I've got all the markings, everything taped off. So I'm anxious to get in there and take a look and see what this horse looks like. So we're going to start there. Also, I have one of our sets of bow rockers stained and it's ready to clear. Our other horse back here is going to be another paint horse. This is a medium. I put the first coat of base coat on it. I don't know what I was doing, but the paint kind of got away from me. I really laid it down. So I've got some runs in there, and this is a first coat, so it's not that big a deal. It's been drying for a few days, so it's ready to, we'll sand all of that down and we'll give it its second coat. So we got to do that. Also, that's pressing right now is I have a large glider stand that I need to make for our horse in the paint booth. So I'm going to be getting Cherry down. I want to get on that and get that done because I'd really like to see this horse get shipped out next week. So we've got a lot to do, but let's head into the paint booth. That's where we're going to start. And let's pull that tape and see what it looks like. You in the shop? Huh? Well, Willow's come to visit me here in the shop. Well, as you saw, I carried the cherry rockers out of the paint booth. I put 3 coats of clear on those. So those are finished. I'm just going to let it sit overnight, and then that's ready to go. Our paint horse, I pulled the tape off of this. I've got some cleanup to do on the white around the edges. I always have a little bit of cleanup. There's always a little bit of bleed from that tape. No big deal. It won't take long. The only other thing I need to do is paint the hooves. But I think for now, I'm just going to leave this sit for a day or so and move on to other things. Next up, I want to carry that paint horse, or the white horse, into the paint booth, and that's the one I put some runs on it. I kind of laid the paint down, so I've got to correct that. So I'm going to carry that in the paint booth, give that a quick sand, and we'll put the second coat of base on that. Then that can dry overnight, and then we'll come out, get up on top of the lumber rack here and get some cherry down. I want to start building the large glider stand for this guy here. So I told you, it's a busy week, lots going on, so I'm going to get after it. So as you can see, you know, I've got some runs. I have to laugh. Once in a while, you know, it gets away from me here. I get a little over anxious and lay the paint down. So I'll just bring my orbital sander in here. It's not that big a deal. I'm going to run here, 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 back here, I think up underneath in the back here. But again, this won't take long. I even have a little bit of a run, but the blanket will cover that, but I'll fix it anyways. But really, I mean, I have to put a second coat on it anyway, so it's not that big a deal. Like I said, I'll bring the orbital sander in here with, you know, some 120 and give this a quick sand, put a second coat on. Well, it's been a long day here in the shop, and I'm ready to quit for the night. And I think tomorrow what I'm planning on doing, I was going to jump into the paint booth and start taping off for the second paint horse. That's going to go on the bow rockers. That's a medium size. I was thinking about doing that, but I may just go ahead and pull the lathe out first thing tomorrow morning and turn the turnings. I've got the 2 turnings I need to do. Those don't take long to finish off the bow rockers. Then we can start staining that. So I may do that first thing in the morning and then jump into the paint booth and start masking off for all of the markings on that paint horse. And then hopefully we can get back onto this and then continue working on building the top part and the hoof rails for this thing too. We're just going to keep plugging along here and try to get as much done as we can. And so that's where we are at today, but a lot done today, so feel pretty good. So we'll see you tomorrow. It's a new day here in the shop, and I'm going to go ahead and get the clamps taken off the base of our glider stand. And then I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull the lathe out, and I'm going to go ahead and get those turnings turned so that that's done. Get them put on the bow rockers, and then I can start thinking about getting those stained for next week and get them cleared. Once that's done, that shouldn't take too long here this morning. I'll jump into the paint booth, and I'm going to start masking off for the paint horse and mask those markings off. So that right now is the plan. So we'll just get after it here and see how much we can get done today. So I've got my blank here, my turning blank. I need to run it over the joiner and get this edge joined, and then we can get this all squared up. Now this is a little over 36 inches long. The turnings are around, I think they're 8 5/8, so I'm figuring 9 inches for each turning, and that should give me enough room to play to make my cuts and everything else. So I made a nice long piece here, so I'm going to go ahead and get 4 turned here today. Again, shouldn't take real long. I don't do a real crazy design. They're just a basic turning for these for these bow rockers. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is get this all squared up, and then we'll start turning. Fantastic. This is done. My turnings are all done. I've got turnings done for the other bow rockers, so we're moving right along. Next up, I want to take this horse off its rocker here, and we'll set it, I think I'll do it out here, but I'm going to go ahead and start taping off the markings here to make this a paint horse. And then hopefully by this evening, go ahead and paint the dark brown over this. Then it can kind of sit for a couple of days and just cure. So that's the plan now. And then I'd like to jump back over, if there's still time today, and start gluing up a few more things for our glider stand. But hey, you know, we're moving right along here. So next up, let's get the tape and let's start marking off this horse. So while I'm putting my painter's tape down here on my self-healing mat so I can start laying out the markings for this paint horse, I thought maybe this would be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about the carving course that I offer here at the shop. Now, some of you are aware of this, but maybe some of you that are brand new to the channel aren't aware that I do teach carving courses here, that if you're interested in learning how to build one of these horses, you can come up to the shop and hang out with me, and I'll teach you all the ins and outs on how to build these horses. So you remember last year I had Andrea and Will here, and they learned how to do the medium horses. Well, I had my third student here last week, Ken from Washington, D.C. He drove up, hung out here at the shop for 5 days, and I taught him how to build a small horse on bow rockers, and of course how to carve it. But he was also really interested and asked if there's a way I could teach him how to build the rockers to go along with his horse. Well, this was really exciting for me because I have not had the opportunity to teach somebody how to build these bow rockers using my techniques. And I'll tell you, we had a lot of fun. The 5 days went by, you know, just like that. And he seemed to have really learned a lot, and his horse and bow rockers came out perfect. So it's so much fun. I have so much fun building these horses, as you can tell, but it's a lot of fun for me to teach and share my knowledge with other people on how to do it, and then see the excitement they get as the week progresses and their horse starts to come together. It's just, it's a lot of fun for me. But I'll let I'll let Ken tell you how the class went and, you know, what all he learned. So take it away. Well, here we are. We have our third student at Greenfield Woodworks, Ken. He came up from Washington, D.C. How you doing, Ken?
Good.
Good. Ken wanted to learn how to do a small rocking horse, along with, he threw kind of a curveball at me. He also wanted to learn how to do the bow rockers. So he asked if there's a way that we could do both. I'll teach him how to do the small rocking horse along with the bow rockers. And so I was able to put a little bit of a class together, and he was able to come up for 5 days. He spent the week with me. What'd you think?
Had a great time.
Did you learn anything?
I learned a lot. I mean, I had done carving before.
That's what you said.
I was not particularly happy with the shape, my end product.
Right.
Mostly because I was, it ended up looking blocky, squared off, and
right.
And I couldn't. I've tried bow rockers a few times, and they always broke.
Right.
So, this was a great experience because I learned how to do bow rockers that are rock solid, and I also finally figured out exactly what I was doing wrong, which was not starting with the pieces assembled in the right way to give definition to the horse.
Right.
And probably more importantly for learning was the order to do the carving. Really starting with the horse, starting with the head, attaching that, then kind of working in a circle, so you're actually spinning the body of the horse as you carve different pieces. And that allowed me to visualize what was happening, how the shape of the horse was being defined, in a way that my initial efforts over the years have been varied, but I never really had a good sense of how it was all working together. Your approach, half of it was what you said, half of it was what you did, because being able to just see it happen, in front of me, you were always there, but still it was, you're using your particular approach.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Let's go ahead and we'll flip it up. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to make it perfect.
Yeah, they look about the same.
They look real close, so it looks great. That looks really, really good. So now we're going to rotate this. We're going to go upside down because it's hard. You could go to your side, but the way I'm going to show you is, like I said, we're going to do the bottom side. You've already done your top side. We're going to come in, we're going to cut in up underneath here. We're going to start shaking the belly a little bit. Then we're going to connect this point to this point that you carved. And it's all going to just start coming together. Okay.
Your approach really defines the horse not from a holistic thing, but from pieces that are being assembled, and as you spin the horse around on the jaw horse that's sitting over there, it really gave me a sense of how to connect the neck to the shoulder to the belly, and that was, I have to say, that was worth the price of admission because it was
right.
It was I just hadn't been, that was the piece for me that was totally missing. I understood how to hit a chisel. I understood how to use sandpaper. I just didn't know how to assemble.
Well, and you could build a horse. There's no doubt. I mean, if you put plans in front of you, you could build that horse. But as far as carving it went, then that's where everything kind of stopped. And when I set him up for the first time and I was over watching him carve, and I was telling him, okay, we're going to start with the neck. And it's just like the one video that I put together on how to carve the body. We're going to start with the neck. And then we're going to do the top part of this, and then we're going to roll the horse upside down, and we're going to do the underside of that. Then we're going to roll it on its side, and we're going to connect the top part, or the point up here, to the bottom. And this is all going to come together. My line, I'm doing this, and I'm kind of establishing a light line, and then I can kind of feather it back in. I like to, on my horses, I like to kind of take this back in, and I like to kind of, when we stand it up, you're going to see that, like, this belly, this front part of its belly is going to hang down a little bit further, where it's going to go up in. I kind of like that just a little bit. So we can work this down a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it around, because that's about all I want you to do on the belly side on this. So I'll flip it around, do that, what I just did, and then we're going to round. We're going to bring this in, then we're going to go this way and this way.
And use the other tool for that?
And it was fun to stand back and watch you, and I even joked and kind of chuckled and said, I know it's like carving in the dark. I mean, I could tell that you were focused on what you were doing, but you had no idea what you were doing. But again, I knew this was all going to come together in how this was going to shape, and it was going to be fun. And I just knew at the end of this whole class at 5 days, you can sit back and think about what you did, and it makes sense now.
Oh, yeah,
doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Now you understand, you do the top part, you do the bottom part, then you do the side, then you do the top again, do the bottom, and you just continually roll it and do little bit by little bit, do your left, do your right, and it would all come together, and it did.
I mean, absolutely. And, I think if I were to say what's the takeaway, the biggest takeaway is that, using a chisel is part of the skill, but perhaps more importantly, when you use the chisel,
right?
and at the different points in time, and the idea of carving the head, just the head shape, and then putting the neck on, would never have occurred to me. But it made so much sense. Then when you shape it, and you get that definition, and that
Right.
that
And
would-
that's not really my approach. That's just how it's been done for, centuries. But yeah, somebody brand new wouldn't know that. This
but
is
still,
how
if I had a bunch of pieces of blocks of wood, I wouldn't have put them together the way you
right. right.
whether they did it 100 years ago or not.
Yeah.
The point is,
Yeah. But
assembling them in a certain order made it
made a lot
work.
made a lot of sense. And then the bow rockers again too, that was something that I was trying to show you how I put them together, and flipping it upside down, building the box, and the other thing that we did right at the very beginning that I really wanted to impress upon you, and again, you have a wood background, you know your way around tools and things, but again, the setup is once we cut those bows out from the bandsaw and you bring them over, I just spent probably 20 minutes laying those and making sure that those were about as perfect as we can get.
Yeah.
And if you start at the beginning and get those perfect, then everything else sort of falls in line.
Yeah.
It's just like carpentry, just like anything,
Yeah.
it's just the beginning and you get it right. And your rockers come out beautiful. They're in the paint booth. I should have brought them out, but I'll put video at the end of this too and show off the rockers. His rockers come out just perfect. I mean, you look down those and they're just dead on. So he did a fantastic job, and it's just been such a pleasure to have you here all five, for 5 days. And
Thank you.
it's like when Andrea was here and Will was here. I hate to see him go because then I'm back to pretty much being by myself. But we've had a really good time.
Oh yeah,
I think. Great conversation.
I've enjoyed it.
And it wasn't stressful.
No.
I don't think you were stressed at all. And,
No.
And
I think you kept it at a pace that was comfortable.
Yeah, right. And but it's been such a pleasure to have you here, and I'm so glad that you were able to finish your horse, and we got the bow rockers, got everything done. We're pretty much at the end. You've graduated. This is where we throw the sawdust on you. But it was a real pleasure, and I'm glad you came up and and you spent time with me up here.
And I'll do a little commercial for you. Okay.
Okay.
So if anybody who is watching this wants to make a horse, or has attempted to make a horse that's partially finished in the garage,
Right.
call him up.
Yeah, I'm happy to help. You've heard me say it lots of times.
Call him up, and he's going to be able to help you either finish something or start something, and even if it's a one-off because you just always wanted to make a horse.
Yep.
Somebody like me that wanted to add to my knowledge, and I added a lot to my knowledge.
Yeah, and I'm learning too as this goes, because you were my third student out of all of these years, and so I'm kind of learning too a little bit about how to structure a class. So if you are interested in just maybe doing a head, I'll help you do a head. If you want to help, need help doing the entire body, everything, I'll help you that way as well. I'm happy to help any way I can. Just like when we first talked about him coming up here, he threw in there, could you help me do a bow rocker? And that's kind of got me thinking, maybe I'll do a class on just building bow rockers. So if you're interested in doing bow rockers, happy to do that too. So if there's something you're stuck on, reach out to me, and I'm always happy to help. So, well, Ken, I think all we need to do now is pretty much, again, you're done, and kind of dust ourselves off here, and we'll get you loaded up and get you on your way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. All right.
Thanks.
Okay. I know I've said it, but it really was a pleasure to have Ken here for 5 days teaching him how to build one of these horses. And you saw at the end there too, I even had him in the paint booth and letting him kind of spray a little bit on his rockers to get a feel for how to spray with an HVLP system. I think he really enjoyed that as well. And I have so much fun building these horses, and if that is something that you might be interested in, coming here to the shop and having me teach you, reach out to me and I can put something together for you. You don't necessarily have to come here for 5 days. I'll work with your schedule. If you have 2 days or 3 days, whatever it is, I'll try to teach you as much as I can in the time that we have together. But I think that's where I'm going to leave things for this episode. I'm going to go ahead and continue working here today on getting everything marked off, and I want to get in and get our brown paint sprayed on this horse so that next week when we get in here to the shop, we can go ahead and get the tape pulled, get everything cleaned up. I want to continue working on the large glider stand beforehand so that that's done, and we can go ahead and get everything stained and then possibly get everything set up, and then we can clear coat everything at one time. Well, I really appreciate you all hanging out with me here at the shop. And again, if you're getting something out of these videos, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a comment, drop me an email. I'd love to know what you're working on in your shop as well. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Really helps me out. The channel is growing, and I'm really excited over that. But I'd really like to get some more subscribers out there, so think about subscribing as well. Well, until next week, happy carving, and we'll see you then. Take care.